Good afternoon, my students. Now we have lecture number 5. Okay, as for the content for today's lecture, we have text analysis, a reading exercise, writing an introductory paragraph, and a grammar review on the present simple and the present continuous. For the text analysis, we have things to consider. What are they? Number one, the author's intended audience. The author's intended audience is or are the person or people the author is addressing. Who did the author write this for? Number two, author's point of view. The author's point of view is his or her position on an issue, or in other words, the author's opinion or belief regarding an issue. Then we have the author's purpose, and it means the reason for writing. Why did he or she write this? And we have three purposes for writing any piece in general. Number one, it could be for informing. This means giving information about something. Entertaining. This means that to give some feelings to the reader. And then we have persuading. This means to make the reader believe in something, accept it, or reviews it, and so on. Then we have assumptions. An assumption is something that is taken for granted to be true, accepted as truth without proof. Assumptions can be either logical or illogical. For logical assumptions, they are based on the information the author has provided. There is textual evidence that can support a logical assumption, and this can be taken from the text, of course. The second one is illogical assumptions, and they do not make sense because there is no textual evidence to support such an illogical assumption. Author's tone. It's very important and essential to know how to define the author's tone. The author's tone is his or her use of words and writing style to convey the attitude towards the topic. It could be, for example, sarcastic, serious, urgent, compassionate, angry, amused, disapproving, threatening, supportive, and so on. So we have many other tones which the author may have or use in his piece of writing. Also, we have here context clues like words in a sentence or paragraph that help you reason out, figure out, understand the meaning of an unfamiliar word. Types of context clues include definition, synonym, contrast, examples, experience, or clues from other sentences, which means information from another sentence that can help you figure out the unfamiliar word. Let's have an example or an exercise on the author's tone. Again, what is the author's tone? As we said before, it's the author's attitude towards the topic. The author's attitude is expressed through the words and details he or she selects. And for example, textbooks are usually written with an objective tone, which includes facts and reasonable explanations. So most books are written in this way. For example, if you buy a book in chemistry or about, for example, physics, it should be what? It should be written in this objective tone because the author provides some real facts. The objective tone is matter of fact and neutral. The details are mostly facts. On the other hand, fiction and personal essays are usually written with a subjective tone. A subjective tone uses words that describe feelings, judgments, or opinions. Like, for example, an article or a story. For example, when somebody writes about something to express his opinion, it's called a subjective tone. Objective tone is impartial. It does not show any feelings for or against a topic. Therefore, it's unbiased or neutral. Often, objective tone uses higher level words and avoids pronouns such as I and you, creating a formal tone. Subjective tone is personal, biased, emotional, and often informal. So after we have some introduction about the author's tone, now let's move to the exercise on this. I'd like you to read these quick questions again. What is the author's tone? Question number 2, compare between objective and subjective tone and provide one example at least. For example, what are the key differences between objective and subjective tones? And what are the examples you might, for example, describe or use here or provide here to tell me that this is objective tone and this is a subjective tone, for example, based essay or piece of writing. Okay, now let's move to the reading part. First of all, let's have a look at the key vocabulary for today. Number one, we have the word insulate. It means to protect something with a material that prevents heat, sound, electricity from passing through. Then we have the word improve, to become better. Then we have the word properties, which means a quality or characteristic that something has. Then we have composite, or composite, both are correct, which means made of different parts of materials. Okay? Then we have ferrous, and ferrous means containing iron. And the last word we have is PVC, which is polyvinyl chloride. And as you know, it means a strong plastic material used for a wide variety of products, such as clothing, pipes, covers, etc. Now guys, we have a reading text. It's about materials. So we have to read this text from a different perspective. This means I'd like you to read well, grasp the meaning, try to understand what the topic is about. And then after reading and taking the time needed, I'd like you to go to this list of questions to answer them. For example, what's the basic classification of metals? Which materials are good insulators? What are the characteristics of iron? Is steel an alloy? Which metal does it contain? Why are alloys created? And then let's go to the part which is very important, which is what is the author's tone? Is it objective or subjective? And how did you know? Then who do you think is the target audience for this piece of writing? So the author wrote this piece of writing for whom? For which audience? And then what's the author's purpose? Is it for informing, persuading, or entertaining? So I'd like you to read again and try to find out the answers and post them in a comment. Now let's talk about how to write an introductory paragraph. An introductory paragraph consists of hook or attention grabber, background information, thesis statement. An introduction should give a good hook to grab the attention of the reader, to make him interested in reading your piece of writing. It should give enough background information about the topic. And last thing, it should give or have a good thesis, which must have the topic, focus, and 3 supporting ideas. For example, read this introductory paragraph given below. Now answer the questions that follow it. So I'd like you to read this paragraph and then try to answer the questions given below. These questions include: number 1, what do you think is the topic of this introductory paragraph? Then draw a star where you see the hook ends and background information begins. Then underline the thesis statement. And then how many paragraphs do you think this introduction supports? So guys, I'd like you again to read and apply what we've just learned about the introductory paragraph. For example, what's the topic of this paragraph, for example? And what's the where does the hook ends, and what is the thesis statement? Okay, and by the thesis statement we mean the topic. What is the topic of this paragraph? Okay, and then also you have to send the answers to this example or this exercise in a comment. I will also upload sheet number 5 on writing, how to write an introductory paragraph, and you have to submit it, and I will decide and set the deadline for this assignment later. Now let's go to the grammar exercise. It's about the present simple and the present continuous. Of course, we have discussed this before, but here it's like a quick review of the present simple and the present continuous. As you know, the present simple tense is the base form of the verb. For example, I work in London. But with the third person singular like he, she, it, we add an s. For example, she works in London, he lives in Cairo, and so on. The present simple questions include, for example, do you play the piano? Does Jack play football? Do Rita and Angela live in Manchester? Where do you live? Where does he come from? Where do they work? We use do and does to make questions with the present simple. We use does for the third person singular like he, she, it, and do for the others. We use do and does with question words like where, what, and when. For example, again, where do Angela and Rita live? When does Rita usually get up? What does Angela do? But questions with who often do not use do or does. Who lives in London? Who works at Liverpool City Hospital? Who plays football at the weekend? The second thing is the present continuous. The form is the verb be, and we add to the verb be either a verb, then we add ing. And by be we mean, for example, am is are. And this, the present simple is used for different purposes. Number one, describing activities at the moment of speaking. Like this. I'm just leaving work. I'll be home in an hour. Please be quiet. The children are sleeping. It could also be used for future plans or arrangements. Like Mary is going to a new school next term. What are you doing this weekend or next weekend or next week, for example? I'd like you to go to these two links and practice more on the present simple and the present continuous, and also I will upload two assignments regarding these two tenses. Thank you guys and have a good day, and wait for the next lecture inshallah.